Dubro Suspicion Files.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the sprawling, overwhelming landscape of information and distill it down into the facts you absolutely need to know. Today, we are grappling with a question that feels intensely personal and yet entirely futuristic. Is someone stealing your brain data while you sleep? We are taking a deep dive into the disturbing yet often misunderstood concept of the dream hacker.
It truly is a primal fear, isn't it? The idea that the last, most intimate bastion of your privacy, your internal thoughts, your subconscious dreams, the very essence of your identity, could be compromised.
By some rogue actor or a shadowy, profit-driven corporation.
Exactly. Our mission today is challenging. We're going to unpack a sprawling investigation that cuts across, neuroscience, geopolitical espionage claims, corporate dream incubation experiments.
And the emerging critical reality of the data privacy battle for what scientists and advocates are now calling neurorights.
It's a huge topic, and we have to be really clear about our approach. We have to separate the sci-fi speculation, the stuff that's designed to panic us, from the documented, verifiable facts.
Right. So we've assembled a massive stack of sources here, case files, peer-reviewed science, published in top journals like Nature Neuroscience, legal documents, and hard physics rebuttals. The central critical work we have to perform for you, the listener, is to act as forensic analysts. We're going to separate what's impossible, what we'll call red circle speculation,
from the things that are documented, green circle facts.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the core thesis, the big hook that frames this entire deep dive. The crime being widely feared, the idea of a subtle, remote device non-consensually stealing your mind, maybe a satellite or some invisible ray, is scientifically impossible. It's a red circle fantasy.
Okay.
However, the crime that is actually happening, the insidious legal and frankly bureaucratic harvesting of your neural data, is far more complex, far more real, and far more concerning.
We're afraid of the wrong kind of hacker.
That's the bottom line.
Okay, well, let's unpack this and immediately ground our discussion in reality. We're going to begin the investigation not with a theory, but with a documented event that proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that major corporations already have the intent to access and influence your subconscious.
Right. Before we even talk about taking data out, let's talk about how they're trying to put data in.
Exactly.
The shift from speculation to verifiable fact in this world of neuromarketing is jarringly quick. We are moving past hypotheticals and starting with a high-profile case study involving one of the world's largest beverage companies, Molson Coors.
This happened back in early 2021.
That's right, and it established documented intent.
So, leading up to the 2021 Super Bowl, Molson Coors announced an advertising campaign that was, well, it was revolutionary in its method and, frankly, deeply unsettling in its ethical implications.
This ad was specifically designed not to be seen on television during the big game.
Which is already strange for a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
Their whole press release framed it as the first ever big game ad that runs in your dreams.
They called the technology Targeted Dream Incubation, or TDI. And what gave this whole thing a veneer of legitimacy was the partnership they secured. They worked directly with a well-known researcher from Harvard University, Dr. Deirdre Barrett.
She's a psychologist known for her work in dreams, so bringing her on board gave it this scientific credibility.
It did. This wasn't some back-alley pseudoscientific effort. They were using real scientific theory, specifically the phenomenon known as hypnagogia.
That's the transitional state, right, between being awake and falling asleep.
Exactly. They used that state to launch the attack, for lack of a better word, and the protocol was incredibly precise. Participants had to opt in, of course.
Of course. So what did they have to do?
First, participants were instructed to watch a stimulus film. This film was deliberately curated, filled with positive, refreshing, and very specific imagery. Cooling mountains, pristine alpine streams.
And, let me guess, prominently featured Coors beer.
Prominently featured Coors beer, especially the Coors Light brand. This visual priming was designed to lodge those specific motifs in their short-term memory right before they went to sleep.
And then came the critical part.
Yes, the 8-hour-long step. They were told to play an accompanying soundscape audio file throughout the entire night as they slept.
So this isn't just white noise.
No, not at all. The soundscape contains subtle auditory cues designed to be non-disruptive but recognizable by the sleeping brain. The goal was to continuously prime the brain with those stimuli just before and, crucially, during the deepest cycles of REM sleep.
The stage where we have our most vivid, memorable dreams.
Precisely. The hypothesis was simple. If they could keep the concepts of refreshment and cores active during the period of memory consolidation, the brain would incorporate them into the narrative of the dream itself.
And did it work?
The initial results, what the company called the Dream Lab trial run, were reported as a success. Participants who went through the protocol described dreams featuring those specific brand images: cascading waterfalls, majestic mountains, the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐏.
They were dreaming the ad.
They were dreaming the ad, and what makes this so monumentally significant is that this was not a covert action. It was a publicly announced major marketing strategy aimed at circumventing conscious consumer choice.
They were bypassing our conscious defenses while we were at our most vulnerable.
Yes. This single campaign established with, green circle certainty two things. First, the viability of dream incubation as a psychological tool, and second, the profound corporate intent to directly insert brands and logos into the human subconscious.
So the response from the legitimate scientific community must have been intense.
It was immediate and severe. This was not treated as a harmless gimmick. In July 2021, an open letter was published and signed by 35 of the world's leading sleep and dream researchers. They were sounding a loud, clear alarm.
And one of the co-authors, Dr. Bob Stickgold from Harvard Medical School, he was pretty direct about it.
Extremely direct. He stated this was absolutely a slippery slope with real consequences. His language was, he argued that advertisers were, and I'm quoting here, trying to push an addictive drug on people who are naive to what's being done to them.
Wow. Comparing it to forcing an addictive substance on someone, that's a huge statement.
It is, because you're tampering with the very function of sleep memory consolidation, emotional regulation. Dr. Stickgold concluded with a really chilling summary of the future threat. He said, anything that requires rapid learning or motivation could arguably be enhanced by weaponizing sleep.
Okay, so the precedent is set. Corporations intend to weaponize sleep as a means of input. So now we pivot. If they can put data in, what or who can take data out?
And that brings us directly to the specific fear that defines the dream hacker. Let's get into the harvesting.
We transition now from that broad corporate intent to the highly specific personal anxiety of data harvesting. And we're going to use a case study that made genuine headlines, the case of NFL champion Logan Ryan.
Ryan is an elite athlete, a two-time Super Bowl winner. His entire career is tied to his ability to maintain peak mental acuity, to be focused under immense pressure.
Right. And to optimize that mental edge, he used a commercial neurofeedback device, a consumer-grade EEG headband called FocusCalm.
The device's explicit purpose was to help train his brain to quickly cycle into a state of optimal focus and calmness, to perform consistently, even when the stadium is deafening.
It looks sleek, innocuous, just another piece of consumer tech for wellness. But the backstory at the manufacturer, a company named 𝐵RAINCO, that's where this narrative just pivots sharply.
It does. 𝐵RAINCO was founded with roots at Harvard, which sounds great, but an investigation uncovered that the company was quietly funded by entities with direct, documented links to the Chinese government.
And not just any entities.
No. Most critically, China Electronics Corp., which is a sanctioned Chinese military company operating in the United States. This isn't abstract paranoia. This is a matter of documented financial linkages.
So you have an elite American athlete using a device strapped to his brain, tied to a company with direct links to foreign military operations.
Just precisely. And then came the specific data revelation that drove the fear. A document for software developers was found publicly available on 𝐵RAINCO's own GitHub repository.
And it specified, in black and white, exactly what the FocusCalm device collects and how often it transmits it.
That document revealed that the device collects raw, unprocessed brainwave data EEG data and sends it to the developer every half second.
Every half second.
Every 500 milliseconds. This is where the intimacy of the theft becomes clear. It's not just his heart rate or steps. This is the raw electrical signature of his brain's focus and calm patterns, logged constantly and sent to a developer linked to a foreign-sanctioned military entity.
Okay, I have to jump in here and ask the skeptical question our listeners are surely thinking. You've described this intense high-stakes fear, but is there any actual concrete evidence that this data, Logan Ryan's or anyone else's, was actually used for espionage?
That is an absolutely necessary question, and the answer is complex. The documented green circle fact is the linkage and the collection. We know the company is linked to the sanctioned entity, and we know the device collects raw EEG data constantly.
But the smoking gun?
The red circle fantasy is the definite proof that the data was used for military espionage. We don't have that smoking gun.
So why does the story matter so much then?
It matters because of the chilling effect and the sheer potential. The fear is validated by the architecture of the system. Logan Ryan's own reaction, which was captured live on a podcast, was that he was unbelievably freaked out. His fear became the perfect, tangible microcosm for the entire dream hacker narrative.
It checks all the boxes, doesn't it? High-tech device, intimate data collection, a shadowy, foreign-linked organization. It's a modern thriller.
And it feeds perfectly into a culture that's already primed for this. We see dream hackers in science fiction all the time, from Inception to Minority Report. And you look at online communities, like the Lucid Dreaming subreddit. It has over 425,000 members. People are fascinated by and terrified of the invasion of the inner mind.
Okay, the fear is palpable. The corporate intent is documented. Let's stop debating fear and move directly into the lab. Can scientists right now actually read thoughts or dreams in a meaningful way?
Let's find out. We have to examine the peer-reviewed breakthroughs that provide the scientific basis for the sci-fi scenario. If the capability didn't exist in a lab, we could dismiss all of this. But it does exist, and the progress is breathtaking.
Our first stop is Kyoto University in Japan, specifically the lab of Dr. Yukiyasu Kamitani. His team focused on decoding the visual content of dreams.
Their methodology was meticulous. Step 1. Subjects were placed inside an fMRI machine. Step 2, they were allowed to fall into the earliest sleep stages while the fMRI recorded their brain activity.
And step 3 was the really tedious part, right?
Incredibly tedious. Once the brain scans showed the onset of early dream stages, they'd wake the subjects up immediately. "What did you just see?" And they repeat this hundreds of times per person.
Wow.
The final step involved the AI. They took all this fMRI data and matched it with the dream reports. This massive personalized data set was then used to train a deep neural network to find the complex relationship between blood flow patterns and the visual objects described.
And the result was?
Stunning. The trained decoder, reading only the brain activity, could successfully identify the categories of objects the person was dreaming about: house, car, person, tree, with significantly above chance accuracy.
So a verifiable green circle recording of visual dream content.
Yes, it proved the brain's visual representations are stable enough to be read. But the evidence escalates when we move from static images to continuous flowing thought. For that, we turn to a breakthrough from the University of Texas at Austin, in the lab of Dr. Alex Huth.
They also used an fMRI. Their training was different, though. Participants would lie still and just listen to hours of podcasts and stories while the machine recorded their brain activity.
Right, and the AI they developed for this was a transformer model. Many of our listeners will know that's the architecture that powers things like ChatGPT.
And that specific architecture is key, isn't it?
It's vital. Older models struggled because meaning is contextual. The unique power of the transformer is its attention mechanism. It doesn't just process one word after the next. It looks at the entire sequence to understand the relationships between words.
So the neural activity for the word bank would be different depending on whether you were thinking about a river or money.
Exactly. The transformer understands that context. So they taught the AI to understand the gist, the semantic meaning of the brain's activation patterns.
Then came the true test. They asked the participants to silently imagine telling a story. No speaking, no lip movement, just pure internal monologue.
The result, published in Nature Neuroscience, was the bombshell. The decoder was able to translate a person's silent, internal thoughts into a continuous stream of text. They had, in a very real sense, achieved mind reading.
But there's a crucial nuance here. It wasn't a word-for-word transcript.
Correct. It was a transcript of gist, or meaning. This is so important. For example, if a participant heard, "I don't have my driver's license yet," the decoder might produce, "She has not even started to learn to drive yet."
I see. So the semantic concept, the lack of driving ability, is retained, even if the exact words are different.
Precisely. The accuracy is imperfect, but the fact that it retains the core meaning means the essence of privacy is violated.
It's terrifying.
It is. Dr. Huth himself said he was kind of shocked that it works as well as it does. The dream hacker scenario, based on these live results, has a hard scientific basis. This is a green circle fact.
So if we stopped here, the verdict would be, the dream hacker is real, and we're all in trouble. But we have to apply prosecutorial scrutiny to that lab evidence.
And this is where the simple narrative of a remote hack completely falls apart.
Okay, let's get into the scientific firewall.
Right. We're now applying the counter-evidence. The lab results are compelling, but in the context of a non-consensual remote hack, they are deeply misleading. Limitation number 1, the machine itself.
The Logan Ryan narrative implies a subtle device, a headband, maybe signal from a distance, But the breakthroughs in mind reading used an fMRI machine.
And we need to visualize this. An fMRI is not a headband. It is a 15-ton, room-size superconducting magnet. It costs millions of dollars to purchase and operate.
The logistical absurdity is it's incredible. For this to be a non-consensual hack, the villain would need a medical facility and a crane. You, the victim, would have to be transported, slid into a narrow tube, and told to remain perfectly still.
It's a terrible plot for a heist movie. And the limitation goes deeper than logistics. It's physics. Dr. Huth calls the fMRI a noisy, sluggish proxy for neural activity.
Sluggish? Why sluggish?
Because thought itself is an electrophysiological event. It happens in milliseconds. An fMRI doesn't measure that electrical activity directly. It measures the hemodynamic response.
The blood flow.
Exactly. When neurons fire, they consume oxygen, and the body rushes oxygenated blood to that area. The fMRI detects this change. But this response, the flood of blood, is delayed by several seconds after the thought has occurred.
So it's not reading the thought as it happens, it's reading the metabolic aftermath of the thought. That makes it fundamentally impractical for real-time surveillance.
A critical green circle fact. But this brings us to limitation number 2, which is maybe the most profound counterargument. The anti-hacking firewall, which is your own free will.
The fatal flaw in the whole premise of stealing thoughts.
Yes. The 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐏 decoder doesn't work on a stranger. It requires hours of personalized training. The participant must lie still and cooperatively listen to hours of audio inside the fMRI. It needs a massive data set to map your individual brain patterns.
Okay, but what if someone was trained and then later decided to resist? Could the system still steal their thoughts?
The researchers tested exactly that. They had trained participants actively try to confuse the system.
How? What did they do?
Mental countermeasures. They purposefully thought other random thoughts. They counted numbers backward. They focused on sensory data, like the pressure of the machine on their body.
And the result?
The decoder's output became, and I quote, similarly unusable. The mental noise overwhelmed the decoder's ability to find a coherent semantic sequence.
The conclusion here is staggering. The human mind has a perfect, built-in, 100% effective firewall, your own free will.
It does. The technology translates thoughts that are willingly offered. It can't steal them against active resistance. The fear of a non-consensual fMRI mind hack is, by the very science that created it, completely unfounded.
And finally, we have to definitively address limitation number 3, the remote fallacy, or remote neural monitoring.
RNM. This is the red circle conspiracy theory that brainwaves can be read from a long distance by satellites or whatever.
And this is just a question of physics, right?
Cold, hard physics. EEG signals, your brainwaves, are infinitesimally weak. They're heavily blocked by the skull, by muscle movement, and most critically, by environmental electromagnetic noise.
From what?
Everything. Your Wi-Fi router, power lines, radio waves, all of it is exponentially stronger than the signal coming from your brain.
So even the BCIs we have now, the headbands, have trouble getting a clean signal when they're pressed directly against the scalp.
Exactly. The idea of isolating these weak, noisy signals from a distance through buildings and atmospheric interference, it just defies multiple laws of physics. There is zero scientific consensus to support RNM. It's a conspiracy theory.
So the case is closed. The sci-fi dream hacker is impossible. We should feel relieved.
We should feel relieved about the fantasy, yes. But this is the critical pivot. We've just proven the science fiction crime is impossible. We haven't investigated the crime that is actually happening. Logan Ryan's fear wasn't baseless. He was just afraid of the wrong kind of hacker.
This is where the story gets truly unsettling. While we're looking to the sky for satellites, the real intrusion is coming from a device we paid for and willingly wear. The hacker isn't an external agent. They're hidden in the end-user license agreement.
The first step in understanding this is the data schism. People hear sleep tracker and brain data and think they're interchangeable. They are absolutely not.
Let's define the categories. Category 1, biometric trackers, like an Oura ring or a Whoop strap.
Right. They primarily use a small light sensor PPG to measure blood flow. They also use accelerometers for movement and temperature sensors. So they collect heart rate, HRV, and movement.
Their mind-reading capability is a green circle 0.
0. They don't use EEG. They do not record brain waves. Their sleep stage data is just an algorithmic inference based on your vitals. Your ring is measuring your pulse, not your thoughts.
Okay, now category 2, consumer neuro trackers. This is where Logan Ryan's FocusCalm device falls, along with things like the Muse headband.
These are explicitly consumer-grade EEG devices. They're worn on the scalp to measure the brain's electrical activity.
This is the gray zone. Their mind-reading capability is yellow circle limited, but not zero.
Absolutely not zero. So, if the data is being collected every half second, what can this consumer EEG data actually reveal? A Duke University project found they can reliably determine your level of attention, fatigue, emotional state, and even cognitive load.
That seems extremely valuable to advertisers. But we have to apply the scientific caveat again. Is the data good enough to determine an actual emotion?
Scientists are quick to inject caution here. Consumer EEG is notoriously noisy compared to clinical-grade equipment. The dry electrodes they use are susceptible to movement artifacts. Any twitch can distort the signal.
So when the app says you felt stressed here, that's not a verifiable neural fact.
The blunt scientific answer is no. Often because, as scientists point out, we don't even know what emotions are from a purely neural perspective. The emotion data on your app is an algorithmic guess based on known patterns of electrical activity.
But the company is still labeling and selling that data as emotional state.
Exactly. And here is the crux of the real hack. It's about the volume of the data and the legality of the collection. The theft is legal collection, not a technical vulnerability. The hack is a feature you paid for.
And the evidence is right there in the legal documentation. We looked at the privacy policies for the Muse headband. What do they say?
The language is often buried, but it's unequivocal. We have direct quotes. The policies state, quote, "We collect personal information, including through cookies and similar technologies." And then the critical line, quote, "We may also share this personal information with third parties, including advertising partners."
So they confirm the collection and the intent to monetize.
Undeniably. The dream hacker is real, but it is the company's own data science and marketing team. The theft of your brain data is real, and it is called data sharing for targeted advertising. You consented.
Logan Ryan's intimate brain data wasn't stolen in a sci-fi attack. It was collected as a non-negotiable term of service he accepted.
That is the banal, bureaucratic reality of this deep privacy violation.
The implication is massive. If advertisers can be fed data showing your fatigue levels or emotional arousal patterns, what kind of neuro-advertising does this enable?
Predictive and adaptive marketing on a whole new scale. Imagine dynamic pricing that changes based on your predicted cognitive state. If the algorithm thinks you're fatigued or emotionally vulnerable, they might increase the price of an impulse purchase, knowing your defenses are lowered.
Or a streaming service that knows your brainwave patterns show peak emotional investment exactly 3 minutes before the commercial break.
Optimizing ad placement for maximum impact. The goal is to maximize profit by targeting your subconscious vulnerability legally. That is far more frightening than a satellite.
And yet, it's also harder to fight. Which brings us to a really interesting psychological question.
Yes, we've established a stark reality. The external threat is impossible, but the internal legal threat is real. But why is the idea of a remote fMRI hack so compelling, while the reality of a 40-page EULA is just exhausting?
The threat is arguably identical, someone accessing and monetizing your inner world. But one scenario grabs our attention, and the other causes us to just click "I agree" and glaze over. Why the fear asymmetry?
It's rooted in well-documented cognitive flaws, starting with proportionality bias.
Our tendency to match the cause to the effect.
Precisely. We assume big events must have big causes. The violation of our dreams is a monumental event for our sense of identity. Our brain instinctively wants a commensurate cause to match it. A secret government plot, a brilliant rogue hacker, a satellite.
Like when a global banking system crashes, people blame a super hacker, but the real cause is often just years of deferred maintenance and boring bureaucracy.
Exactly. The mind struggles to accept that a monumental event resulted from a tiny, boring cause. And in this case, the monumental violation of accessing our brain data for profit has a tiny cause. A little box we scroll past and clicked, "I agree to." The truth is too mundane for the scale of the violation.
And that ties into the second cognitive flaw, the illusion of control.
Yes. We crave the feeling that we can do something to reduce anxiety. The sci-fi dream hacker is a knowable, fightable enemy. If the threat is a virus, we install a firewall.
Right. There are clear lines of defense.
But what's the reality of the EULA threat? Our data is legally collected, fed into opaque AI algorithms we can't see, and used for purposes we can't understand. There's a total loss of control.
It's the difference between fighting a known enemy and fighting a fog. The helplessness is so taxing that the mind just rejects it.
And that's the great paradox. The fictional hacker narrative is paradoxically more comforting than the boring reality of corporate data surveillance. We prefer the lie because the truth makes us feel powerless.
But we have to move beyond that. We've established the current threat is legal and bureaucratic. But we cannot get complacent. We have to address what happens when the physics and logistics catch up.
While the current crime is in the fine print, the scientific breakthrough for reading thoughts is real, even if it requires a massive machine today. So now we have to turn to the technology for writing to the mind act of manipulation.
Our final witness here is Dr. Rafael Yuste, a neuroscientist at Columbia University and founder of the Neurorights Foundation.
His lab's experiments on mice move us past reading data and directly into influencing behavior. They perform shocking experiments where, by implanting electrodes, they can project images into a mouse's brain,
So they can make the mouse see things that are not physically there?
completely overriding its sensory reality. Dr. Yuste describes the consequence bluntly. We can end up manipulating a mouse as if it were a puppet.
Wow.
This is the future threat. And his warning is perhaps the single most important summary of this entire deep dive. He states clearly, what we can do in mice today, we can do in humans tomorrow.
The existential threat is when the fMRI decoding tech shrinks, and the neural manipulation tech shrinks, and it merges with the existing unregulated commercial ecosystem we've already built.
Exactly. And because of this imminent threat, Dr. Yuste founded the Neurorights Foundation to campaign for a new set of human rights specifically to protect the mind.
They propose 5 neurorights. The first is the right to mental privacy.
Which is different from existing data privacy. It protects the source of your identity, your unexpressed thoughts, your raw neural data.
The second is the right to personal identity.
A shield against neural alteration without consent. If technology can alter your memories or personality, your fundamental right to be yourself is compromised.
Third, the right to free will.
The direct answer to the Molson Coors experiment. This right fights algorithmic control of behavior, ensuring you are not manipulated or coerced by neurotechnology.
And the last 2 are fair access and protection from bias.
Right. Fair access ensures these technologies are available to all who need them, not just the wealthy. And protection from bias is crucial because if an AI is trained on biased data, it could create a new internal form of algorithmic discrimination based on your neural patterns.
And this is not a debate for the distant future. It's happening now in state legislatures.
Correct. States like Colorado and California have already begun passing the first laws in history to specifically protect neural data as a separate, highly sensitive class of information. This legal movement validates the fear that Logan Ryan expressed.
So the dream hacker is simultaneously impossible and completely real.
It's the perfect paradox.
Let's return to our original query for the final summation. Is the dream hacker stealing your brain data while you sleep? We have to provide 2 answers.
The sci-fi answer is a resounding no. Absolutely not. The technology is too big, too expensive, requires your cooperation, and the physics prohibits remote reading. That's a red circle fantasy.
But the reality answer is an unequivocal yes. The data isn't being stolen by a technical hack. It is being collected by the consumer EEG headbands you buy and wear. And it is being legally shared with advertisers because you agreed to the terms of service.
The Logan Ryan story is just the prologue. The technologies for reading minds and for writing to minds are being perfected in labs. And while that's happening, the legal framework to sell that data is being perfected by privacy policies and EULAs.
The dream hacker isn't one person. It's the entire rapidly evolving and currently unregulated ecosystem we're building with our wallets and our I agree clicks.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought to consider. If your free will is currently the only 100% effective firewall protecting your deepest thoughts from an fMRI decoder, how will you protect your right to free will when the technology that can actively manipulate thought is miniaturized and integrated into that commercial ecosystem? What will the new I agree button mean when the technology can change your mind about clicking it?